Welcome to Teaching Truth. Order, order. The appropriate title for the biography of one of the former speakers of the House of Commons, the Right Honourable George Thomas MP. George Thomas, who rose from a Welsh mining valley to hold one of the highest offices in the land as Speaker of the House of Commons. In the biography of George Thomas, the writer pens these words. One morning after the scripture lesson, George was teaching arithmetic. He noticed that one little boy was paying scant attention. He was pale and suddenly fell from his desk into a little heap on the floor. George rushed to him and gently picked him up. He had fainted. After bringing him round, George asked kindly, "What did you have for breakfast this morning?" The boy tearfully shook his head, and George realised that he had no breakfast. Later that morning, when the children had their milk, George noticed that this same boy did not have any. George realised that the boy's family could not afford it. Children paid a halfpenny a day for milk, too much for this family. But now George secretly ensured that the boy always had his bottle of milk like everyone else. Years later, when George was campaigning to become a member of Parliament, the writer writes these words. A young man in the audience stood up. "I want to make a statement to this meeting," he said. "I have something that I want to say." The chairman interrupted him. "Please sit down. You can ask a question later. You are not making any statement here." Every eye fastened on the young man, who remained standing. Suddenly, George's eyes widened in surprise. Then, turning quickly to the chairman, he said, "Let him speak. Let's hear what he has to say. If necessary, I'll answer him." As George had stared at the young man, he had recognised him. His memory had taken him back to that morning in school more than 10 years earlier, when a thin-faced little boy had fainted into a little heap on the classroom floor because of hunger. The young man standing in the audience that night was that boy. A strange hush came over the school hall as he told simply what had happened. How as a child he had been deprived and could not even afford to have his little bottle of milk. He spoke with emotion of George Thomas's kindness. "He saw to it that I always had my milk after that." He sat down, and for a moment there was complete silence. Here and there people wiped away tears that had come to their eyes as the story was told so simply. George Thomas says, his speech was far more effective than any of mine. A wonderful legacy of service and caring for others, of leadership, of true leadership, of servant leadership, left by the Right Honourable George Thomas. He was a true leader who looked to others. And in our reflections today, as we journey through the narrative of Genesis 49, looking at the legacies which were prophesied by Jacob to his 12 sons, we want to look at the legacies of leadership that some of his sons were offered. For example, Judah, verses 8 through to 10. Judah's legacy is that of leadership, that of victory, that of honor. Let me just say this simply, that if God has called you to be a leader or to raise up young and emerging leaders, then be faithful in doing that. Hold onto that legacy. That is an important thing, to be able to lead, and to lead well, and to lead faithfully. Like Judah, be a godly leader. Be Christ-like, and raise up godly leaders who equally will be Christ-like. Be faithful in doing that. Leadership, Judah. Leadership, Zebulun. Verse 13, productive. Zebulun was to be a productive tribe. Zebulun will settle by the seashore and will be a harbour for ships. His borders will extend to Zidon. Zebulun was to be a productive tribe, and they would be very successful in commerce. Now, Sidon was not on the sea, but on the pathway to the sea where the ships would come in. And so the caravan route of the east passed right through Zebulun, coming and going, as it were, from the Felixstowe, the Dover of Sidon, making the tribe of Zebulun very successful merchants. Is that your legacy, as it was to be Zebulun's? Has God called you to be productive, to be successful in commerce, in business? God may well have placed you there for a reason, not simply to make money for money's sake, but to steward that money for the Lord's work. If so, do it for God's glory. Don't store up treasure here on earth. Leadership was also seen in Issachar. Issachar, a sturdy donkey resting between two saddle packs. Issachar became strong. This tribe was going to put their shoulder to the load and work hard. And maybe that's you. Maybe you are a hard worker, and we need hard workers. People who will put their hand to the plough, their shoulder to the wheel, will get their head down and work hard. But there's an inference in the language that they may actually have become slaves to their work. Read verses 14 to 15. And so if you're writing a legacy of hard work, then by all means work hard, like Issachar did, but do not become a slave to your work. Watch that work-life balance. Don't become a slave to your work that you abandon time with your son, with your daughter, with your family, or even the church. Do not become a slave to your work. The legacies that we see that were given by Jacob to three of his sons, legacies of leadership. If God has called you to serve as a leader, be like these leaders that we see, these three sons of Jacob. Be Christ-like, be faithful, be humble. And in one sense, be like George Thomas. See that those whom you serve get their milk. God bless you.